procured by corruption, and assuring accuracy can only be achieved through the operational integrity of our elections, as defined by those laws governing the following 5 processes. Number 1, rigorous verification of voter identity. Number 2, proven ballot security and intact chain of custody. Number 3, voting system certified to be secure from operational, physical, and cyber threats. Number 4, meet all FISMA and state operational and risk assessment requirements. FISMA is the Federal Information Systems Management Act. It's a security compliance requirement. Number 5, meets auditability and traceability requirements and operational policies. An open source audit of the New York State 2020 general election conducted by New York Citizens Audit has uncovered evidence of massive inaccuracies that violate both federal and state laws, including 2,427,827 New York State voter ID numbers attached to 1,170,790 registrants, 740,396 ineligible votes cast statewide, 338,356 more votes cast than voters who voted, 987,490 voters who registered on January 1st from 1900 to 2021, 1.9 million registrations in the state voter rolls missing from the county roll, 625,359 more registrations than voting age citizens in 6 counties alone, 195,271 votes cast in New York City that went missing in the New York State voter database, 1 million plus felony violations of New York State election law, 95 state and federal legislative races impacted by 740,396 ineligible votes, abandoned ballots and ballot payment schemes. Certification as defined by law was provably fraudulent and illegal. These findings trample accuracy requirements of voting systems for a federal election, wherein the system shall achieve a target error rate of no more than 1 in 10 million ballot positions. For voting system, accuracy is defined as the ability of the system to capture, record, store, consolidate, and report the specific selections in the absence of selections made by the voter for each ballot position without error. It must be known factually and provably that the intent of the voters is accurately represented by election results before certification can be lawfully conducted. Certification of an election that varies from the law is an infringement of the civil rights of the citizens. State and federal officials have met the efforts of New York Citizens Audit to seek redress for these egregious violations with indifference and inaction, including the Attorney General, Secretary of State, State Board of Elections, Inspector General, Federal Bureau of Investigation, state leadership of Democrat and Republican parties, county election officials, sheriffs, district attorneys, and others. None of these violations were addressed prior to the administration and certification of the 2022 general election, and there prevails a spirit of extreme contention and zero trust between people of different political ideologies across New York, which is destructive to our families, our way of life, and fabric of these United States. We call upon our representatives, including town board members, county legislators, state legislators, federal legislators, law enforcement, federal and state prosecutors, and judges to provide relief to the people and the assurance of domestic tranquility. Through the fulfillment of each of the following firm requests: a complete end-to-end audit of the New York State 2022 general election, the enactment of legislation defining a mutually agreed upon process by which an end-to-end audit would be triggered in any future election, the enactment of legislation defining a mutually agreed upon accuracy rate for the New York State voter and county voter roll databases, the enactment of legislation allowing for anonymous vote verification and tracking by the voters, including automatic mechanisms to report and remedy errors during the canvass period following an election, regardless of ballot entry source, criminalize election misconduct explicitly with regard to state election law, and increase penalties to reflect the societal and generational harm inflicted by these crimes. I'm asking that the Wheatfield Town Board stand in support of the concerns and remedies presented here. We implore the Niagara County Legislature, the New York State Legislature, federal legislators, law enforcement, federal and state prosecutors, judges, and both state and county boards of elections to cooperate and fulfill these firm requests of the people. Gentlemen, we have a few weeks to look at this, and so I'd like to know your thoughts and intentions on this matter.
You mentioned going to Niagara County, like the Niagara County Legislature. Did you mention going to them also?
Yes, I could, yeah.
The town doesn't have a whole lot to say about state or county elections, other than, their town clerk manages the election for the town. But
You've got a resolution?
I never saw it. I never saw it.
Ma'am, if you could read that resolution, that's actually asking for our support.
Well, yeah, I can read it. It's a lot of what was read already, but the resolution page just states, be it resolved that the town board of Wheatfield, New York stands in support of the concerns and remedies presented here, to the Niagara County Legislature, the New York State Legislature, federal legislators, law enforcement, federal and state prosecutors, judges, both state and county board of elections to cooperate and fulfill these firm requests of the people. So, I'm sorry, it is as lengthy as what was read. If the board hasn't seen it, you may want to read it and have everything that it supports before you take action. You don't have to.
Where is this going to go? I mean, this was investigated by the feds 2 years ago. I mean, we're going to do a resolution asking them what to go back and reevaluate the 2022 election. Is that what we're asking them to do?
There was supposedly, another thing looking at this, that there's been a large amount of fraud in the election. There was a large amount of fraud in the 2022 election. I'm sorry.
And you are looking for an investigation and support from Niagara County
And New York State to
further investigate these allegations.
The 2020 election, yes, had a lot of fraud, so they want to look at the 2022 election.
Are you sort of expect that Wheatfield was fraud here in Wheatfield, you're saying?
Throughout the state.
One of the things you're saying is you're expecting that there's fraud in the election here in Wheatfield? So you suspect fraud in Wheatfield?
Can we table this until the next meeting?
So we'll table it, we'll let the board digest it. I thought they were copied of it, and we'll let them look it over. I'll make sure they're copied, and we'll act on it next week. Our next meeting. Thank you.
We've had the presentation. Now the board can have time to read the proposed resolution and determination next week, or next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any further public input tonight? Rise to the pledge of allegiance.
Father, we pray thee grant wisdom to all who are in authority, that order and justice may be upheld to the benefit of all citizens. Restrain those who seek to destroy our government. We ask your divine wisdom to rest upon our leaders to guide them and protect them. Amen.
For the record, Kurt Doctor has been excused tonight. Approval of the minutes, March 20th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes, approval of bill payment of April 3rd, 2023. Voucher number 202-30341 through 202-30490, with a total amount of $154,604.83. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Those are paid. Department heads, Paul Siegman.
Chipper did go out. It's out now. They're making its rounds around town. You don't need to call us. They try to get around once every week, once every 2 weeks, depending how much is out. My guys started hot patching. We don't like to do too much cold patching because it's like $150 a ton and the stuff doesn't work. It just comes right back out of the holes for a week and they start making blacktop, and that's what we're using now. I have another crew out. It's kind of an interest. One of our subdivisions, we're going to be paving this year. And there's, I believe, 78 catch bases in the subdivision, and he has to do work on 67 of them. It's just ridiculous. But besides that, we're keeping busy. Hopefully we're done plowing snow.
Well, the catch bases are falling apart.
Yeah. Got to do it every time we go to pave a subdivision, we end up rebuilding all the catch bases. Which, I don't know, I would think a catch basin should last 100 years.
Do we do them with brick or do we do them with concrete?
Well, we're done doing them with brick. We won't allow it anymore, but that's part of the problem. Was for years they were allowed to use them cinder bricks as risers and stuff like that. They weren't being properly inspected. Tim can tell you the backside would have openings in them so the water could seep through. They weren't crowding around the pipes properly. What?
I'm sure the salt doesn't help anything.
I don't think that's got half to do with it.
You see what it does to concrete.
Well, I got catch basins that are 60, 70 years old in this town and they're still okay. I don't know. That's all I got.
Mark Clark, water sewer.
We're doing okay.
Good evening, guys. All I have is two things tonight. One is Auctions International came out last Wednesday to take pictures of the F-250. They were put up for sale, excuse me, along with the generators, pumps, welders, and weed trimmers. The bids actually start tomorrow, and they're going to end on the 18th. And the other thing is, due to the recent weather, our department has been extremely busy with pump stations, the calls. We had to run our camera system to find out problems in the areas of the sewer mains to minimize the infiltration coming into our sewer system, which the pumps are not designed to handle. So we've been addressing them as we've been coming across. That's pretty much it.
Mark, when I just touched base a little bit this morning on the department meeting, I know the county will be $20,000. What do we should do to stop some of this infiltration?
Basically just us running the camera to find the problems. We address it right away, and depending on cost, we'll just need.
I know when I was at one of the presentations on our sewer board meeting, they actually showed a company that actually goes in and lines some of the pipes that are.
That's what we've been doing through RIC Plumbing. They come in, they line the pipe, so we don't have to dig the ground. We go in through each manhole.
Because I know through the county that infiltration is a big deal.
It is. That's all I got tonight.
Okay, anybody here for that? We have a resolution on these.
Thank you.
So Mark, what would we have to do? Find out which lines are leaking and then possibly line some of these lines?
Yeah, depending on what's wrong with the line itself. Like the recent one we found on the boulevard, it looked like a guide wire for a telephone pole went through the actual sewer main, so it cracked the side of it. So they go in and they put like a 5-foot section of lining instead of digging up the main and repairing it. So it depends on the situation.
Recreation department, Mike Bernard. How you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm good, how are you?
Very good.
I also had Auctions International come out last week to snap pictures of the SUV. Clerk's office was kind enough to provide me a copy of the title. I noticed on the title there was a lien on the vehicle since my predecessor had taken out a loan for it. So I talked to the guy from auctions, I just called the lien holder. They could just forward over a copy of the release. So I called them, and since it's an 08, for whatever reason, it's not in their system. So they're kind of like trying to get in, they tried 2 different programs, they couldn't find it, so I gotta call them back tomorrow and hopefully get that resolved, but hopefully we'll get
What did you
it.
get for that vehicle?
Pardon?
What did you get for
It hasn't gone up yet because there's a lien on it. So until I get the lien released, I'm hoping that it's paid off. I don't pay for it monthly, so, that's kind of where we stand with that, but, before I go in, I did get a postcard mailed to me this morning. We spoke this morning at our meeting about, Modern that came up, and Modern had sent a postcard to my office on Nash Road that they're changing my garbage from Wednesday to Thursday. Very small, maybe 3x5 index card, I almost threw out. So we were talking about how we don't know where people are calling and why they're calling so many different departments, so we may have a spike in calls because of just getting delayed a day, and people may not know. So I just wanted you to be aware that I did get that at the office, and that may be coming your way at some point. Some things we plan on doing at the park this summer, spring to summer. The first thing is actually came at your recommendation last spring, was to replace the batting cages. So we tore those down because they were starting to become unsafe. So we're in the process of putting up new posts. We're going to hang those up. They're going to be safer, easier, accessible for our residents. Number 2, actually, we're going to do the track. So we're going to revamp that. We're going to get some fine stone. My guys were out there this afternoon with the tractor and the box rake going over it, turning it over. So it's in pretty good shape now, so we're just, when the weather breaks, we can get a truck out there, haul some stone and get that squared away and, probably go out there with the gill maybe once a week and get it just turned over and nice and fresh.
What about the weeds? We talked about it great this morning.
A lot of them are coming up, we're just going over with the box rake. So that's typically how we've maintained it and kept it in decent shape, but I think if we just widen it out, keep widening it out, keep going over it, I think it'll be okay. The shoreline at the pond, we had kind of talked about that at the end of last year. We're starting to lose it a little bit, so I did want to go in there and plant vegetation, kind of solidify at least the one end by Diamond 6 and that row of pine trees there. I'm starting to get closer and closer to that berm, so I want to, shore it up with some rock and some vegetation to kind of get that stopped. We don't want to lose that.
How's the water level now?
It's high.
Okay.
It's bad. I was a little worried about that last year. And then we really have 2 main focuses, that I really want to target. The first thing is drainage. Number 1 thing that I think that I hear from residents is the pathway and how when it does rain, it's underwater for at least 24 to 48 hours. It's just unusable. So highway department came in the fall, they put in a couple of crossovers, and in the areas that they targeted, as soon as that rain, hour later, 2 hours later, the rain's gone. So we do know it works, so we're gonna just target that, this spring, as soon as we can get out there. Number 2, town board approved purchase playground equipment last June. Hasn't been shipped yet, but I did get notice that it is coming soon. So that is something that we plan on doing this summer, probably post-picnic, so sometime August, September. And then, I guess it's really 3 things we're really not ready to reveal kind of the major project that we're working on for the time. Something that's going to be awesome. And then last meeting, somebody had mentioned drainage out by the Veterans Memorial. It might have been Tom Contact. It's actually on my radar. I've been thinking about, because we have that puddle that's out there that's like 100 by 100. When we were trying to put that wall in, we had to put the, I don't know, what was that wood down or whatever, to protect the grounds. I want to run a line all the way to the pond, get it out. So it could tie in with the Veterans Memorial, because it's hard for us to maintain that. Building that up, the water just collects in that corner, so I definitely want to put drain tile in. And then I noticed it, Saturday around the building. We had the Easter party. So, other than that, I guess, any questions?
Something smaller, like, are you gonna stack the pond again this year?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Anybody have any, thank you. Mike Clark is on vacation. Kelly.
Nothing major to report, just working on tentative roles due next week to the county, so change of assessment notices will be going out within the next couple of weeks. So I'm expecting to have some informals on that. We've had a couple little issues with payroll, just like communication wise, like somebody got a check that no longer works here, and somebody that worked here didn't get a check. No one communicated that with the payroll department, and so we caught that today, so we're getting that corrected, so we can stop that check, stop payment on that check net.
Yes, I believe Debbie said she called again for stop payment, and I called the individual and, I left a voicemail that there was an error, and either destroy the check or return it.
Okay,
I heard a lot of cash, Debbie checked it.
okay, so just, things that shouldn't really like be happening right now, happening, we got this all under control within the payroll, but, other than that, people are still coming in for exemptions, but exemptions was March 1st. It's already after April, and people are still coming in, so I don't know where they're getting the information that, they're still eligible to get this. So, just a lot of traffic throughout the office that is not expected at this time of year.
Anybody have any for Kelly? While I'm thinking about it, Paul, when you were up here, we had talked about it, not for over Golos. I can make it part of my report while Paul's here. Paul's looking to find a pump that we can use over Golo. And, Paul did do a test over there, and it did work well. Not guaranteeing that we won't have flooding over there. But talking with Matt today, we probably do it under an emergency purchase because of the infrastructure issue. So I'm just letting you guys know that we get a price, a decent price on a pump. We're trying to do an emergency purchase because this is the time of year when they're going to flood if we get a major rain. So I hope you guys think about that. If we have to, all if the price is right, we can get a decent price. And I know we talked about 80,000 or somewhere like that. So, but we, Matt agreed that because of the potential effect on life safety and homes over at the railroad, we could probably do it through an emergency purchase. And I talked with Ed about it, and we do have sufficient funds to use ARPA funds for that contest. I just want to give you guys an update on it. While Paul was here. Constables.
So we inspected all the AEDs in the compound here. All the batteries have been replaced, all the pads have been replaced. We have a place where we can source these from now, so we're good to go from now on. Along with that, we're in the process of scheduling a CPR class for the public and for the town employees. Just trying to throw together some dates that works best for the instructor and everybody else.
Dan, how long was that going?
The class is 5 hours long.
5 hours.
Basic first aid CPR.
So while the department heads are here, in a fall, like if we do offer this CPR class, they may not be able to put everybody for 5 hours, but maybe have a representative from each department to take that course. Probably a good idea to have it done.
A real good idea to do it in the wintertime.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Well, the instructor works for us, so we can set this up whenever, and I can do it during the day or at night. We might, if I get enough people who want to do it during the day, I can set it up class during the day.
Probably do a sign up to see what the interest is, but it would be a good idea to do it. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Is on, here we go. Good evening. Only two things on our agenda for you this evening. The first one is actually a repeat from our last meeting. We have our proposal in to assist the town with developing an adult use cannabis law. Our packet that came in last week, we actually put the same proposal as 2 weeks ago in, but based on discussions with the town over the weekend, we did revise that proposal. We took out scope in there and we're able to reduce the fee. And if the board so wishes to proceed, there's a motion and a revised proposal that was sent over today. So please let me know if there's any questions on that. And the second and last item on our agenda is the recommendation for final acceptance of the improvements at Eagle Chase. This is phase 3 at the Eagle Chase subdivision. It's actually been under construction. It started about 2 years ago. It was really substantially complete over the summer, but it's just been recently that we finished the last punch list items out there and gotten all the easements and dedication documents all set. So just for everybody's reference, it's phase 3 of the subdivision. It's the last phase to create 20 single-family lots, and we'll really complete all the infrastructure build-out for that subdivision. So if there's any questions on that, please let me know. We have a motion in for that final acceptance and to accept the easements and road dedication.
Motion, Matt Brooks.
The first motion in the motion packet has been replaced with the revised motion revised amount that Tim had mentioned, so I'll read it now. Motion to authorize Wendell to provide assistance with updates to the Wheatfield Town Code to address adult use cannabis in accordance with the proposal letter dated April 3rd, 2023 for time and estimated expense estimated fee of $3,800.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. And a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next motion, again, as Tim mentioned, is a motion to accept the completed PIP improvements for pavement and curbs, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and water line for phase 3 of Eagle Chase subdivision with the following conditions. Those conditions are as listed in the motion package.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Again, next motion for Wendell, motion to accept the road dedication, drainage easements, and temporary turnaround easements release associated with phase 3 of the Eagle Chase subdivision.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next motion from Water Sewer resolved by the Wheatfield Town Board to set the required public hearing on proposed local law 2-2023 amendments to chapter 130 plumbing for May 1st, 2023 at 6:45 p.m. at the Wheatfield Town Hall, 2800 Church Road, North Honolulu, New York, prior to the regularly scheduled town board meeting, and authorizing the town clerk to properly publish and post notice of said public hearing between 10 to 20 days before May 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next motion again from Water Sewer, and I just wanted to, before I read it, the second resolved paragraph is being deleted because that was repetitive of what was done at the last time, so I will read it without that, and it goes as follows. Whereas due to the cost increases to the Water Sewer Department for water meters, brass, copper, as well as the cost of increased labor and fuel costs, the Water and Sewer Department seeks to increase certain rates. And whereas certain water fees have not been raised since 2022, and since then material costs have greatly increased, now therefore be it resolved that the following water sewer department fees are increased as follows. The those are meter fees, there's also water tap fees to be increased. There is base frozen meter fees to be increased, all as in the motion package. And be it further, and this is where we skip the weekly next resolve, and we go to resolve that the new fee shall go into effect May 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second on the question. Are we gonna post all these on the website too?
We can post all them on the website, sure, but we're gonna send out packets to all the builders as well.
Okay, thank you.
We have a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried.
Next motion from the budget director and town board, resolve that the town board hereby approves and authorizes the use of a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act grant to be used for window replacement and related expenses at the Wheatfield Town Hall at a total cost of $415,000.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Need a second.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Next motion again from the budget director in conjunction with the one we just read. Resolve, approve amendment to the 2023 general fund budget to provide the estimated revenue and budget appropriation for the use of a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act grant to be used for window replacement and related expenses at the Wheatfield Town Hall as follows, and that is as provided in the motion package.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
A second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
And, next motion, again, in conjunction with 251, resolve to approve and accept a proposal from Regional Environmental Foundation, Inc., in the amount of $415,000 for the replacement of windows and other associated work and materials at the Wheatfield Town Hall, being the lowest response they could receive, and to pay the funds from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Before we put it to a motion, just so you know, Mike walked with me with the low bid contractor and walked through the building twice to make sure that it addressed all of our specifications. I'll make the motion.
Second.
And a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
And I have no further motions.
Yeah, and then last motion, Don, will this contractor have like a key to the town hall and will it be forwarding everything through, my block?
Mike Clark, we're going to use him, it's going to be done on a basis.
Okay.
We do this, and we're going to set up a schedule, and he's going to work with us on one portion of the building that we do. So we're pretty good to go. Guys, he's a great company. Okay, let's see, we got any further public input? Oh, sorry, Larry, what do you got for us?
I just have one item. Last week, we had a three-way trail meeting that the New York State Department of Transportation put on. And the public and the town were able to see maps of the proposed design and where the trail is going to go. We had a 1-hour session before the public hearing to talk things over with their DOT people, find out more specific on their design. And then we have to listen to the public for about an hour after the meeting. And I have about 9, they're taking comments on the project up until April 5th to the New York State Department of Transportation. And I have like 9 items I'd like to put in from the town. And I'll read those quick. And I have Kathy Harrington, our town clerk, has a copy of this written out. I'll send her an email with the typed response so that she doesn't have to revise it. The number one, and this seemed to be one of the major complaints of the public that was there. When you leave the town of Wheatfield, or you're actually coming into the town of Wheatfield from North Tonawanda, if you're familiar with Railroad Park, right at Whitmer Road, when that's a red light, and if you're heading into Wheatfield, most of the good drivers are in the left lane. Some of the idiots are in the right lane. And there'll be like 10 cars in the left lane, and you'll have 1 or 2 cars trying to beat out all the other 10 cars. So it's a racetrack trying to get to that welcome to Wheatfield sign where it merges into 1 lane. And quite a few people, the supervisor responded there. quite a few of the people that spoke were complaining about the traffic on River Road. And this would be one thing that would comment, and that's one of the items I have in the request here is that have the DOT, that you've already kind of seen it in North Tonawanda where they take 4 lanes and convert them down to 3 with bicycle lanes on either side. So what we're asking them what to do is to take those 2 lanes going into Wheatfield and Woodward Road and convert it down to 1 lane, so that by the time you hit that red light, you're already getting people, they'll have a right turn lane, but there'll just be 1 lane that goes straight into Wheatfield. And, we won't have that racetrack going in where people are doing 50, 60, 70 miles an hour to beat out everyone. But it should help a little bit. So that was item number 1. Item number 2, the town has a 5-acre park on, River Road at the end of Williams Road. And they're gonna be putting the trail on that south side of River Road. There's quite a few established large trees on there. All I'm doing is asking the DOT is, you know, and they did it in Niagara Falls, and you see from Griffin Park to 102nd Street, the trail wasn't straight, they meandered around trees. So we're kind of asking them to do the same thing, we don't want to clear cut that vegetation out of there. You know, trees in the park setting are good. Number 3 item, Frontier Fire, they have a white hash mark crossing lane for pedestrians that come from the south side of River Road into Irwin Park. It's not really a town park, but, you know, Frontier Fire has a park there. That's gonna be right in the middle of the trail. The DOT is gonna put like a little convergence there so that people can stop and go to that park. So we're saying if there's residents from the town of Wheatfield that live on the south side of River Road, at least it gives them an opportunity to cross. They've already created the crossing, we're just asking them to put a light there. If you've probably seen another bicycle trail, that people can push a button, there'll be some flashing lights that they'll be able to cross a little easier. My number 4 item, people on the north side of River Road, kind of where, from, Demler Cider Mill, Sunset Drive, they're gonna be putting a fence up to block from the trail and Conrail. So where the Conrail railroad tracks are, they're gonna put a fence on that north side of the, walking trail or bicycle trail, they're gonna be putting a fence up there. But people's backyards, it wasn't real clear. I mean, Supervisor Response said he heard that they were gonna be putting up fences. The one person I talked to says that there's a fence there already, they would put a fence up again, but it wasn't real clear. All this statement is saying is, if the people want a fence in their backyard, that the DOT will supply it. Number 5, I know that we're probably gonna have to cut the grass. I don't know what department's gonna have the luxury of doing that, probably recreation. But, other than grass cutting, I wanna know what other responsibilities they foresee from the town having. My number 6 item is, they can put some portable ballards up at the beginning of the trailhead, where Woodward Road is, Williams Road, to help clear some of the ATV traffic, maybe snowmobile traffic in the winter, maybe even Jeep traffic if people are trying to go back in their 4-wheel drive vehicles. This is a pedestrian, bicycle, and walking trail. It's not where ATV and that type of stuff. So we're gonna wanna try to limit, but having these ballards being removable, if there were ever an emergency back there, emergency vehicles know how to lift ballards off and drive through fire trucks or ambulances. If they do need it, they'd be able to get back there.
We actually have, there ballots there. The ones that I had seen in the southern tier, actually, for maintenance, when New York State was in, they actually can unlock them, and swing them, so that you can't get their equipment into the moment. So I think that's gonna be tailored area, but it's on, quite sure they'll have those ballots.
And then we wanted to ensure that they were looking at the drainage, so they weren't gonna have any drainage issues going forward. Number 8, I know North Tonawanda had signage, but we didn't, at the presentation, public hearing, we didn't see what type of signage they were gonna put up. Hopefully they're gonna label, like North Tonawanda says the North Tonawanda Greenway Trail, something to that effect. So we want them to see what type of signage they're gonna put up there. And my number 9 item that just came up, apparently some of the documentation that they've given the town, they've done some soil boring. This used to be an old abandoned railroad, and back in the 1800s, late 1800s, they didn't want grass and vegetation growing up, so they spray it with stuff that killed leaves and grass and stuff. But it's apparently contaminated a little bit, is what the DOT found out. So I think, Matt Brooks will follow up a little bit more on this, but we just want to make sure that the town isn't going to be responsible. We want a clean bill of health on that land before we accept ownership.
And Larry, while we were waiting, I sort of made some suggested language, so I'll just tell the board now, and maybe this is your point number 9. Environmental testing must be done along the entire route of Wheatfield and remediated and in necessary portions for the town to take any future ownership of the trail. The town will require indemnification from the DOT for environmental remediation. Any environmental remediation to be imposed on the town for future contamination, something to that effect.
Somebody will get me that language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So those 9 items I'd like to put into a motion for the town board to vote on, and we can have the town clerk, I'll give the town clerk email addresses for the DOT, so she can send that out maybe tomorrow.
Larry, on number 6, do you want to put, will removable bollards be installed? You call it portable bollards.
I don't know.
I think you want to call it removable.
I'm not in the construction business, so I don't know what you want to
Well,
call it.
portable is like what they have a double sound and you can roll away. I think we were talking later in that sentence about removable. Removable.
Okay.
That's all.
Somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
And a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Got some correspondence from St. Johnsburg Fire Company. They'd like to add Robert Evans as an active firefighter, Josh Vitar is an active firefighter, Doug Collada is a supporting member, and Michael McCulley is a supporting member. And I'll make that motion.
Second.
And a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Scott?
That's it.
Randy?
I have nothing.
And I have nothing. Nancy, you have anything for us?
No, I don't.
Kathy?
No.
Our next meeting is April 17th at 7 o'clock, our regular town board meeting. And we'll have a good bid opening for our small storage building. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.